here we are again on our show. And last week we talked about David Bowie. This week, Billie Eilish. The week prior from David Bowie, we talked about what did we talk about, man? I like time is a circle for me.
Let's see. Before David Bowie, that was back to back Weezers.
Oh, back to back Weezers, and then like before the Weezers, it was Justin Bieber's Swag, and if I'm not mistaken, the album that we're talking about today is like was also nominated for album of the year at the Grammys. So, we definitely kind of we've definitely kind of covered the gamut. Like we've hit a lot of popular stuff here recently. I mean, this episode is still yet to be like fully unpacked. We went into the classic rock with David Bowie, and we settled a debate, at least like our take on it, which was what is the best Weezer album between the Pinkerton. What am I, like 90 years old? Pinkerton or the Blue Album? Man, aren't we the greatest podcast?
Maybe. I don't know.
And welcome back, everybody, to the best music podcast on all sides of planet Earth. And the way that we measure that distinction is we travel to Ukraine and we go all the way to Uganda, but we take the long way around because we go that extra mile for you, dear listener, to prove our worth. This podcast is hosted by two dashingly good-looking men who share the same middle name. I'm the one. I'm the only. I'm the one who went to go see the new Scary Movie in theaters, and before going into the movie theater, he got himself a Angry Orchard, only to realize within the movie, Shorty is doing a live stream, and that live stream is sponsored by Angry Orchard within that movie. Ryan James Kearns.
You've been waiting all the time since to unload that story, and I very much appreciate that. And I am the one, the only, I don't think I've seen a scary movie since watching the first one or the second one with you at your house, Matthew James Durzik, and for the record, I'm talking about Ryan's house, not you, the listener's house, unless you want me to invite me over, which you know. Anyways, what we do here on Hey, Listen to This, if this is your first time listening, or if you just like hearing us talk about it time and time again, me and Ryan talk about music. We talk about albums we want to listen to. So we listen to these albums and we come together to discuss it track by track, note by note, line by line. Sometimes it's based on a certain theme. Sometimes it's based on just what's in our collection. Sometimes it'll be based on what we think should be in our collection. And after we go through the album track by track, we give the album a full rating out of 10. We pick our favorites and least favorites from the album. We recommend an album based on the one we just talked about, and then we pick a new album to begin the cycle anew. And for this month, June 2026, we are celebrating Pride Month here on Hey Listen to This by talking about different artists within the LGBTQ plus community. And last week we talked about David Bowie and his 1972 album, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Ryan, what'd you think of that album?
Oh, I absolutely enjoyed that album, and reviewing that album with you was an absolute blast. Post review, like, it really just made me reflect on the fact that, one, I need to listen to David Bowie more, and two, I feel like, I don't know if you share the same sentiment, but I feel like David Bowie, in terms of like the general like musical consciousness or like the cultural zeitgeist, I understand the guy's like, no longer on this earth. Rest in peace, David Bowie. But I feel like he's kind of losing a little bit of his thunder. And I do believe that the world could, benefit from a David Bowie revival. Like, not physically the man himself, but like, bringing his art back into focus.
I agree. And I feel like there's been this movement over the course of the last several years, almost just because of the age gap, to decertify or depopulize the classic rock genre as just for old fogies that, people who listen to this want you to starve on the streets because they believe in an America run by... We don't have to get into it, but basically that, stuff like David Bowie and all of his older counterparts are sort of being, pushed to the wayside. Now, granted, Bowie's politics are a little controversial. We will not get into that at the current moment, or at least his politics were controversial. Again, won't get into it. But, yeah, I enjoyed the album a lot, too. That falls into the category of should be in my collection, because for the longest time I was like, Ziggy Stardust, everyone loves that album. Why do they love it? And, yeah, now I understand why that's the case. So, not to spoil too much more, if you want to listen to that episode, you can go either right now or at the end of this one, or whenever you want to, make a Sunday out of it, to listen to our David Bowie review of Ziggy Stardust. But we must press on, Ryan, and pressing on means talking about a new album. What do we have chalked up for week 2 of Pride Month?
On this week's episode of Hey Listen to This, we are once again going to revisit an artist that we've already covered once here prior in this show's history, and kind of just see what like an updated piece of work looks like within this artist's catalog. And for those of you who aren't aware, who just want me to get to the point or can't read the episode title, the the artist that we're going to talk about today on Hey Listen to This is Miss Billie Eilish, and and the album that we're going to be covering today is her 2024 release, Hit Me Hard and Soft, as opposed to her debut album, which, you listener out there, you know what to do if you want to, check out that review. That review was, wow. How many years ago was that review, man?
That would have been, I think that was in our first year. I think that was during the month of January 24 when we covered that album. Because it was the month where I decided to switch things up and cover new material and have you cover older material, and that's how you became a fan of The Cure once and for all. It was also, for contextual purposes, the day we recorded that episode, for those of you who are fans of hockey, that was the day that the Flyers traded Cutter Gauthier to the Ducks, and that happened right in the middle of our recording. So that was fun. But yeah, it's been a while since we talked about Ms. Eilish on our airwaves.
And the reason why I wanted to bring her up again is, one, she's kind of gone through like a bit of a sonic pivot between not only the album that we're talking about here today, but like her in-between album, which was Happier Than Ever, and then who can forget the the zeitgeist moment it was whenever she penned the song "What Was I Made For" the Barbie soundtrack, the song that won all the awards. Like, she just walked into an award ceremony and the host just said, "Hey, take this. Like, you've earned it for this song here." So traditionally here on Hey Listen to This, though, it is at this point that either myself or Matt here does like a brief overview of like who this artist is. For the dear listener out there who wants to have like a proper overview of who Billie Eilish is and what has led her to like popularity here today, go check out our previous review. It's a good review. I had a lot of fun doing that review, and Matthew did an excellent job setting the table and describing her upbringing. my focus here is gonna be on like what happened between that debut album and the album that we're talking about here today. So yeah, during this time, Billie underwent a like right after her debut album, she went under like a massive sonic and visual evolution. She kind of was she's transitioned from being like this kind of like e-girl, like bedroom pop phenomenon into more of a mature two-time Oscar winning icon. And this bridge began honestly in late 2019 and into mid 2020 with standalone tracks that featured more of a jazzy kind of flair. You get the introspective "Everything I Wanted" and the pandemic isolated "My Future." Both of these tracks signaled a shift away from the horror infused aesthetic of her debut and toward more of a deeper vocal and emotional like focus in terms of her artistic direction. The real true sonic pivot though came with her sophomore album, which was released in 2021, Happier Than Ever. Side note, Happier Than Ever for me was one of those albums that came and went. I never revisited it. It was just like, it's fine. Like, it knows what it's doing. Nothing really kind of got my attention with that album specifically. But within this album here, she was taking away her signature neon green roots and baggy clothes for like an old time Hollywood, like blonde glamour kind of look here. And Billie subverted expectations by trading industrial trap beats for like more of an old school, like like classical jazz vocal like songs. You get some bossa nova within that record as well. The record as a whole explored the claustrophobia of suddenly being famous and toxic past relationships and loss of privacy, which was pretty much of the time in Billie's career because like her debut album blew the fuck up. It won like all the awards. Billie Eilish, winner of awards. Who would have known? The album's brilliant title track became a like a definitive moment in her discography. Starting as an acoustic ballad before exploding like halfway through into a roaring distortion like heavy rock stadium anthem that kind of showed off her immense like vocal and stylistic range as compared to like what you found in her debut album, which was more of like like everyone knows Bad Guy, and that's more of like a hey, I'm singing it so soft, and we're gonna get into that later on in this review here. But like it showed that girl had chops. So following a massive world tour of like supporting that album, Billie firmly established herself as a titan of cinema. Like she, after winning her first Academy Award for the James Bond theme, No Time to Die, she snapped a creative rut in 2023 by penning what song, Matthew?
Oh, would it be the one you just mentioned, which was What Was I Made For?
Yeah, the song that won literally all the awards. I can't stress that enough. So, yeah, and it was thanks to this song she got her second Oscar at just 22 years old. So that's still like phenomenal. We talked about like how Justin Bieber broke all of like the chart success and chart history with like his upbringing and like how he basically skyrocketed. Billie's winning all the awards. What matters more? I don't know. Like it's depending on depending on your take of like the Oscars versus like the Billboard chart success. But I digress. So yeah, at this point we've kind of come full circle, and this leaves us right at the doorstep of like Hit Me Hard and Soft, the album that we're talking about here today. So now the rollout for this album, Billie abandoned the traditional single by single like approach to in favor of like just releasing the album as is. So like it basically forced fans to experience the record as like one cohesive front to back body of work. And within this album, as evident by the cover art of the album, fun fact, that cover art authentically shot. Not didn't use any AI whatsoever. So with this album though, Billie is returning to a more darker, more rugged aesthetic sonically, like this album acts as like a perfect, like as a good, like state of the union for Billie's career so far. So yeah, not gonna go so much into it. I mean, the only other thing I got to say about the record as a whole, the intention with the record was to kind of go away from the, I don't know, the so serious pandemic infused themes that you found within Happier Than Ever, and kind of just have fun with music and just explore different kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a brief kind of overview of like what has occurred between Billie's debut album and the album that we're talking about here today. So I'm gonna flip it over to you, Matthew, in terms of like Billie Eilish outside of her debut record. Have you listened to Happier Than Ever? And also, prior to doing this review here, have you checked out Hit Me Hard and Soft?
No, on both accounts. And that's a shame because the more I think about Billie Eilish, she is one of those artists I feel I should like a lot more. Because not just because she's won all the awards, like you said. I mean, the fact that she's won 2 Oscars before she has even got her first rental car is amazing. But the fact of the matter is that she hasn't really pushed herself to be like this massive superstar. Like, she doesn't put herself everywhere. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing by any means. It's just that, when you think of pop star, you think of, your traditional, big time artists, your Rihanna's, your Beyonce's, your Taylor Swift's. I'll throw Sabrina Carpenter in there. Billie Eilish has always sort of come across as this very indie darling, even though she exclusively makes pop music. Kind of in that same category as like a Lana Del Rey or, heaven forbid, a Demi Lovato, where it's just like, oh yeah, them. I would say Billie Eilish is higher than either of those two, but definitely not on the same level as like a Taylor or Beyonce. And we'll get into whether or not that's a proper thing later on in the review. But yeah, I really didn't check out Happier Than Ever. The fact that it's jazz tinged, like you say, makes me kind of curious because that almost makes it seem like a 50s, 60s singer standard type of thing, which granted, Happier Than Ever does not sound like that, but in that same mold. And then you have this album, which I did not hear the whole album up until we started talking about it and started doing research for the review, but I was familiar with at least one of the tracks off of it, which was Birds of a Feather beforehand. And I think I gave Lunch a listen at one point before then too. But ultimately, I was like, okay, Billie Eilish, she's making good music. She still has that voice. You come to expect it. But that was in a context not of deep dive. That was in a context of, hey, it's Billie Eilish. Oh, and here's another song by not Billie Eilish. I'm listening to music. Cool. So, yeah, this will be the first full deep dive into this record, the one we're going to be talking about today, since I've even heard it existed.
And, like, just to kind of bring everything back into focus, the reason why we're specifically talking about her today, like, other than the fact that she's undergone, like, a bit of a sonic pivot, she's experienced, like, a bit of success since her debut record. It's with this record and my specific relationship with it that I wanted to bring it up for contention for our Pride Month discussion. Not specifically because of Billie's, like, LGBTQIA plus status, but it's an album that I listened to relatively soon after it came out, and I was just like, you know what? I appreciate this album. I might appreciate it more than her debut record. And then, days went by, weeks went by, months went by, a year went by. I don't even know like how much time actually went by between me listening to the album for the first time and you selecting it between the two options at the end of last week's review for me to listen to the album again. But it's been an album that I've constantly wanted to go back to, and I wanted to kind of dive into the reason, what kind of caught my attention about this album from a passive listening standpoint, and I wanted to see what it had to offer. So, yeah, that's basically why we're here today talking about Hit Me Hard and Soft.
And I'm very much excited to talk about this record because, again, Billie Eilish has accomplished a lot, and for all the awards she has won, she's got a decent amount of chart success too, so she doesn't have to choose between one or the other. She has them both firmly. But I am ready, Ryan, if you are to start hitting hard and soft with Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. And the first track of 10 up on the docket is Skinny. And the floor is yours, good sir.
So, with Skinny here, we have Billie reflecting on her insecurities, and she's exploring themes of first love, likely with a woman, public versus private perception, anxieties about aging, and honestly, this track here joins a long line of her tracks tackling body image and societal pressure, including the track I Don't Want to Be You Anymore, All the Good Girls Go to Hell, and Overheated. I might be missing some tracks in there, but those are the couple of tracks that I wanted to reference. And and musically, the song's instrumental outro here interpolates the string melody from the bridge of a track that we're going to hear later on. We're going to not hear, but discuss later on in this review here, that being the greatest. And that motif will return again for the closing track, Blue. But when we get to the closing track, we will get to the closing track. But yeah, what an interesting way to open up a record. And for those of you who are at least somewhat super fans of the show, or at least casual listeners of the show, you might listen to a track like this and hear the vocal inflections within Billie's voice, and you're gonna think, oh, he's gonna get on the keyboard and he's gonna be like, she can't sing, what the poop, dude? Rest assured, Matthew, I've come to terms with vocal inflections within music, and they don't annoy me nearly as much anymore. I had to come to Jesus moment. So that being said, I do find the soft-spoken approach to this track here to be a pretty good way to open up the album. Billie's vocal control is amazing. It's very soft-spoken, but I kind of compared her voice to, it's almost being played like a violin within this track here, and it just comes across very nice. The guitar within this track here acts as a great foundation for the song, and I found the chorus to be pretty solid. I very much enjoy the strings you get during the word cry, because you get those nice string swells that lands nicely on the ears. And that instrumental outro that I highlighted at the beginning of the discussion of this track was something that I wasn't expecting, but it kind of worked out pretty well. It kind of made me feel like we were this track here was the overture, the first song within a musical that we were sitting down to experience, and that little outro part was acting as hey, this is going to be the themes that we're going to be encountering later on in the album. Lyrics are solid within Skinny. My lyrical highlight was found within the first verse, and that first word, that lyrical highlight reads, "People say I look happy just because I got skinny, but the old me is still me and maybe the real me, and I think she's pretty." like, and again, that kind of tackles the themes about the track, like right on the head right there. Like, it's addressing body issues and it's addressing self love. And for me, to the dear listener out there, if you're experiencing any battles that you can relate to within these lyrics, please know that you are a beautiful person. You have to love yourself for who you are. Just most importantly, you have to express self love because, yeah, if you ain't gonna love yourself, how are you not gonna love anybody else? So, and with Skinny here though, overall, I'm kind of putting it into the me. It's in a mixed bag for me because I think I'm gonna put it into the good song bucket. I'm kind of leaning almost to album track territory, but there's enough fun stuff here for me to sink my teeth into. So I'm gonna go good song bucket, dude.
I will say I'm a little surprised by a couple things in your dissertation there. Not that you have it in the good song bucket or the album track bucket and sort of teetering between the two, but the one thing I keep coming back to with Skinny is that Billie Eilish sounds very much like your favorite chiropractor, and by that I mean Phoebe Bridgers. It is just so deadpan accurate that I almost felt like I was listening to Punisher right away. I was like, oh, this is very dark and deep. And granted, the stylings and the bitterness of Phoebe isn't necessarily what Billie Eilish is going for here, but I was reminded of that a lot. I think also the strings and the very sort of dreary but very beautiful harmonies when she says cry, I think were a tip off for me to that point. And not only is it the sound of her voice that reminds me of Phoebe Bridgers, it's also the lyrics that seem very self-effacing in ways like songs like Halloween and Graceland 2 were, where it's trying to have a positive spin, but also seems very melancholic. For me, the lyrical highlight was in the second verse where she says, "Am I acting my age now? Am I already on the way out? When I step off the stage, I'm a bird in a cage. I'm a dog in a dog pound." Granted, those aren't necessarily the most poetic lyrics, but again, Billie Eilish is focused on pop. So in pop, simplicity is usually key. And that's what she's going for here. And it very much draws that line perfectly between the two. And again, those harmonies are great. Definitely a nice way to start off the album. And personally, for me, I got this in cut track territory. I'm gonna be honest, it was between this and another one where I was just which one do I prefer? And the other one I prefer maybe just a tiny bit more, but it's not by much. This is a great opener to this album.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And yeah, I am definitely kind of reflecting on the Phoebe Bridgers comparison that you threw out there, and I agree 100%. At least within this track here specifically, it's very much within that lane. And hindsight, I probably should have gravitated to this track more, but yeah. Now, before we continue on, I didn't disclose what my full hand had in terms of this review here because, well, Skinny didn't pop into any of those territories. So for this review, I have a top 3 and a bottom 1. How about you, Matthew?
For me, all I have is a top 3.
A top 3, yeah. Well, my bottom 1, it's kind of inspired by your analysis of stuff and how it's helped me become a better, music critic over the years that we've done this show. So, yeah, when we get to that part, we will get to that part. But in the meantime, you ready to go to lunch?
I am ready to go to lunch. I'm also very curious to see what monsters I inspired for later on in this review. But with lunch, first of all, the transition from skinny into lunch, which is a nice play on words in one regard, very well executed. It's not necessarily a very clever transition like we'll talk about later on in the album, but for what it is, it's pretty good. Definitely keeps the momentum going and also bringing the momentum up. And we go from the somewhat self-effacing nature of Skinny that has a melancholic tone to a lesson that I learned in which Sabrina Carpenter's title for Horniest Song of 2024 was not unopposed, because holy mess, this song. Dude. I'm not saying Billie Eilish was any type of saint or angel heading into this. I mean, she described herself as the bad guy, and that broke her through to the mainstream audience. And she said, "You should see me at Crown." Like, she's got a bit of spunk in her voice. But I was not expecting a song this blatantly explicit when it comes to its subject matter. Which, for the record, is about the rather sensual conquests of being with a woman, to put it very mildly. But yeah, even though Billie Eilish, her voice is nowhere like that of Sabrina Carpenter's, this definitely feels like a Sabrina-coded song, just for its blatant nature. And I dig it. I'm not gonna lie. I thought this song was pretty dope. Like, just the line of "I could eat that girl for lunch" and how it just keeps on that same plateau of insanity for the course of the 3 minutes it goes. Like, so many of the lines in this song are clever. Like, you know, "Do you need a seat? I'll volunteer." Or my personal favorite moment of the song, aside from the chorus, which is, "You're the headlights, I'm the deer," and then you get that little, like, car squealing in the back. Like, that's just good stuff right there. And overall, I did appreciate how this song was very much a nice counter to the melancholy of Skinny. Not that Skinny was bad by any means, but Lunch just reminds you that, hey, I could take this in a whole nother direction if I want to, and that's exactly what Billie Eilish does. My only slight criticism of this song is that the way it sounds almost feels akin to Bad Guy, which I don't hate that. I like Bad Guy too. But the problem is that for a song that's, and again, maybe it's just because I know that Sabrina Carpenter does it the way she does it, is that Billie Eilish's deadpan vocals, the sort of Billie Eilish sound, doesn't seem to elevate the song into much more fun than I think it could be. But even then, it's still pretty fun. Like, you could tell Billie Eilish is very tongue-in-cheek and very tongue in other parts of the body I won't mention, and just really, really just coming on as strong as she can with all the wisdom and smarts of someone who's read up on this stuff. So yeah, criticisms aside, this does pop into my top 3, and I got Lunch coming in at number 2.
Man, lunch, the second most important meal of the day, according to Matthew James Thursik. So, yeah, with lunch here, Billy's on record saying that thanks to, like, writing this song, she was able to, like, better understand her own queer identity. So yeah, that's just an interesting, like, tidbit there. It was a fun Rolling Stone discussion from what I was able to, like, research here. But yeah, earlier in the overview of this review here, I did note that the team, Phineas and Billy, were at this point with her songwriting and her career, they felt like happier than ever. It was written during the pandemic lockdowns. It felt a little bit too serious. So with Hit Me Hard and Soft, they wanted to bring back playfulness, humor, and heavy physical bass grooves. Well, this song here is a clear example of that. 100%. So, yeah, I I'm kind of in agreement with you about the bad guy comparisons. Like, there's no denying it, no denying that the the melodies and the overall feel is basically there. Like, the bones are there of bad guy, but the spin that Billy takes on the song is just so good. Like, you already highlighted the fact that so many of the bars within this track here are absolute fire. The section that I did want to highlight was just the entire second verse. You already kind of talked about that with the bars. You need a seat, I volunteer. And like, oh my god, like it just whenever I read that and I listened to that, I was just like, oh, oh, you're really going there? Okay, I can dig this, man. So yeah, and just even the way the track starts out was just such a funky beat, and Billy basically setting the scene with the bars. I could eat that girl for lunch. Yeah, she dances on my tongue. I'm like, oh, okay, okay, we're really going here. And I think that this song here was the first song within the album whenever I did my first spin of it like years ago when it first came out that really like kind of sunk its teeth into me and like more so than any other Billie Eilish song that I've ever heard. So yeah, it's that good of a song. So and going into like a little bit of like some more nuts and bolts and nooks and crannies here, the splashes of guitar that you get at the start of the first verse, like I very much appreciated that, and I felt like it basically acts as a signal for the rest of the instrumentals to get more locked in. So yeah, I thought that was a clever use of instrumentation there. And I can't deny that chorus. It's just so good. Like the melody is so strong and the instrumentals are just digging in and they're a ton of fun to listen to. And going into other aspects about the song that I did appreciate, like the switch to more of a colder tone in the bridge was a interesting choice. I did appreciate it. It wasn't a misstep in songwriting or performance, but it was still pretty good. And the other highlight I did have within Lunch is the way that the outro deconstructs the chorus and plays with the instrumentals. Like that's just a lot of ton of fun. And it just seems like within Phineas's songwriting and Billy's like like their collaboration, like they're really growing as like a duo here. And this song is an evident example of that. It's my favorite song on the whole album.
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna be completely honest. That is, I mean, it's. I agree with you. It's a very good song. I still think you putting it at number one is a bit of a spicy take, and I will explain why later. Because obviously, it's not my favorite. So let that be the bedrock of things to come. But yeah, like even again that breakdown you mentioned, again, very much in the same sort of motif as Bad Guy. But I will say, like, this song overall, even though it does have those same vocals, does feel more fun than Bad Guy. It just is, like you said, it goes there and doesn't hold back from anything. So, yeah, it is a really, really good time. And shout out to you for shouting out Phineas because even though Billie Eilish seems to be sort of this one-woman tour de force, Phineas deserves credit for the production here. I mean, this is basically the same sort of setup that the Carpenters had in the 70s, except with much different music and much different vibes going on. But same sort of format. But that's where I'll leave that. I will throw to you for the next track off of Hit Me Hard and Soft, and that is CHIHIRO.
CHIHIRO. Do you know what this song is named after?
I do not.
So it's named after the protagonist in Studio Ghibli's 2001 film Spirited Away. The classic, like, hey, I want to get into Japanese animation movies, so where do we start? This is basically like the bedrock of like that kind of genre. So Chihiro finds Billy navigating feelings of being unseen while searching for connection. And the reference here is a natural fit, as Eilish has cited the director of the movie as a major influence for her visual and artistic direction since 2019. So, yeah, a side note, Billie has a lot of influences, man. Like, she's influenced by Tyler, the Creator. She's influenced by Spirited Away. So, yeah, it's just an interesting thing that I wanted to note. But, yeah, with this track here, the funk, the funk, and nothing but the funk. Like the funk is strong with this one here, and the bass guitar is just laying down such a nice funky beat within the track. So I very much appreciated that. The like one of the things that I really did appreciate within Billie's performance here, it's not so much the melody within her vocals, it's more the rhythms. Like she's playing with a lot of fun rhythms within this track here, and it makes for an interesting time. Like within this track here, we get more of like the soft spoken, like what we found within her debut album, and more of her signature sound, which is like like bad guy aesthetic here. But yeah, with whether it's in the verses of course, she is just having a lot of fun, and she's actually creating some fun melodies within it as well. The spot in the refrain where you get the instrumental trills alongside the word me, so good. Like I always love a good sonic painting moment within music, so that was a moment I highlighted for sure. And speaking about highlights, the bridge here is a highlight for me. The way that you get the hush vocals at the start and then they grow into more of a roomy, shouty kind of vocals alongside a synth line that just builds and gets layered. Like, it was just a pretty good time for me. And similar result you get in the outro. Like you get instrumentals that groove and they like get built upon, and you get Billie's vocals getting kind of pushed back though. But given the song's context, like very much intentional, and little peek behind the curtain regarding the recording process with this track here. Billie recorded her vocals sitting at the desk with a handheld microphone while the studio monitors blasted the instrumental track. Because she wasn't in an isolated booth, the backing beat bled directly into her vocal mic, creating that natural embedded room atmosphere. So, for those of you who are listening to this track at the very end, it's just like it seems like her vocals are getting drowned out. They are, and it's very much on purpose, because you get like themes within this track here, like looking for connection and like not knowing, like just looking for connection and like getting lost in the sauce and getting drowned by the background noise. Very much fits, man. But yeah, overall though, with this track here, I am putting it into the album track kind of territory, honestly.
So my thoughts on CHIHIRO. First of all, I had no idea that she had done that with the vocal recording. I think that's pretty cool that that's what she did, because it does create that natural feedback, that natural sort of second track, that reverb, if you will. So I think that does elevate this song a little bit for me. And I will say the one thing about this track, and about a lot of the tracks, not just on this album, but in her entire discography, Billie Eilish is masterful at controlling the dynamics of a song. Whether it's keeping things somewhat on the low with Bad Guy, or the song this probably reminded me of most was What Was I Made For, where it definitely had that more hushed tone throughout. But here you have the builds and the groundswells up to that refrain of, her singing. And you talk about that moment where she sings Me. Again, the build up to that is really nice. However, the first time I heard this song, I thought, I'm not so sure if I like that. I'm not so sure if I like that soaring refrain, because I've talked about this before. Like, it almost reminded me a little bit of the singing I was critical of for both Taylor Swift on Wishlist and Sabrina Carpenter on Bedcam. Just that really, really high register that seems to be going a bit too far. But the more and more I listen to this, I realize that's not what this is. Like, if nothing else, if that's what Billie Eilish is trying to accomplish, the high falsetto that just sort of sticks out there, she's better at it. Like, she's just better at it than either of those two. And it doesn't come across as stinging on the ears, granted that your volume is at the right setting. But ultimately, yeah, CHIHIRO, I will say, as good as the dynamics are, the ambiance of it does tend to make it feel a little lost in the sauce. Not that I think this is a bad track by any means, but I'm kind of with you. I'm putting in the album track territory. Like, it's a solid song, and I'm not going to push skip on it, but I'm also not going to seek it out in the near future either.
Very much agreed. And the thing that you were talking about being lost in the sauce, like, that's very much a valid critique, because if the casual listener out there is just, enjoying this album from front to back, within this track here, that section where like her vocals kind of get faded back, I did note that it was very much done on purpose, and it's very much an artistic intention. At this point in the track, though, if you weren't looking at the lyrics, you're gonna be like, okay, well, this is slightly annoying. So yeah, it definitely does get lost in the sauce. And it seems like we're kind of like walking away from this track very much within the same kind of like feelings overall. Like we have different critiques, different things that we appreciate, but one could say that like we're walking away from this track birds of a feather, man. So hey, the next track here, it's the big one, man. It's Birds of a Feather, like the biggest single off this album here, and you get the honor of talking about it first, man.
Thank you. I will take the floor now that everyone has crossed the dad joke off of their scorecards. So Birds of a Feather, yes, it is the biggest single off of this album, and what makes this stand out is that the lyrics, for one thing, are kind of cut and dry. Like, this is a very standard love song if you just look at it lyrically. I mean, it does have some interesting moments where, particularly on, I think it's the second verse or the back end of the fourth verse, whichever part you want to call it, right before the last part where she sings, "But you're so full of shit, tell me it's a bit, tell me you don't see it." Like, that's a clever set of lyrics there. But ultimately, this is basically a song about loving someone until the day they die and wanting them to stay and just holding on to this good moment that they have. So, lyrically, pretty cut and dry. Musically speaking, this is, in my honest opinion, her best vocal performance ever. Like, it's not even close. Like, the way she sounds, starting with those hushed vocals on the verses, works really, really nice with the synth beat that Phineas has going. And Phineas does a masterful job on this track, too, with the beat and the synths. It just feels so relaxing and upbeat at the same time, which is a rare combination in pop music. And the way that she harmonizes with herself on the chorus is great. The refrains where her voice soars is just so wonderful to hear each and every time. Like, this is her singing with a capital S, and it doesn't come off as like performative. It doesn't come off as I'm the singer. It just comes off as really, really strong in performance. Like, it is absolutely well done. And once again, her use of dynamics is on point, because you get those, you start with just her and you get that beat. It's very, very stripped down. And then you get the little instrumental splashes on the harmonies. And then when it kicks into "I'll love you till the day that I die," it just soars into another atmosphere that really I don't think anybody could catch. The only other thing I really got to say about Birds of a Feather is that Full disclosure, it took me, I think, 3 days to listen between this album for the first time and the second time for the sake of this review. And in the span of those 3 days, this song refused wholeheartedly to leave my brain. It is stuck there. It is lodged in there. It is burned to my brain. And honestly, more please. I will take it each and every time. By a country mile, this song is easily my favorite song on the record.
I feel like I need to go get a bucket of cold water because I'm about to turn down the temperature that you just basically left on the stove for me with Birds of a Feather, because you just absolutely cooked during that dissection about that track. And props to you. It's definitely a track that is huge for a reason. However, I will say that it's kind of boring for me. It's just interesting that you were highlighting the fact that this is Billie's best vocal performance ever, or at least within this record here, and I would disagree. It's not a bad performance whatsoever, and the moments that you did highlight, in recollection, I can see them. They did land well and pleasant within my ears, but that I didn't want to run through a wall for those performances, or I didn't feel like I was getting smacked in the face by a fish. But yeah, I'm just gonna get into the nuts and bolts about this song here. So starting with the vocals, because I was just talking about them, I did enjoy the range that she does show here, because you get the hushed vocals until and you do get the more belting out vocals, so it's a pretty solid vocal range, and you get some fun rhythms within the verse. Again, you get Billie playing with the sense of melody and rhythms within the verses, and then you also get some nice chord swells within the second verse, and the overall production within this track, it's pretty groovy, but it's kind of middle of the road for me, dude. This is very much pop music as it stands right now of the time. This is very much Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, that safe kind of sound for me. And a fun fact about this track here, both Billie and Phineas openly admitted that they almost broke the song entirely by overcomplicating the arrangement. And Billie's even on record saying she called an earlier version of this track absolute poop. Yes, poop. Not shit. Poop. So, as a result, they had to aggressively strip back the production to the basics, because they had felt that they had over-engineered the song into a corner, which, listening to the song now, that does make sense on how basic it seems to me. It's not a bad song by any means. The lyrics are pretty solid. It's a decent love song throughout. And I also did enjoy the use of a theremin during the outro of the song. I was just oh, that was an interesting choice, but I can dig it. But yeah, it's just, honestly, it goes into the album track territory for me. It's not a bottom track for me whatsoever, but yeah, it just is, it does nothing for me, man. It's basically plain oatmeal.
Wow. You talked about getting a cold bucket of water. I think you just invoked the ice bucket challenge. My God. That is... I mean, I get it, and I respect your opinion. I do not agree with it, because, wow. But it is what it is. I mean, it's not the full-on bells of 5 o'clock. It's not the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It's just two dudes disagreeing about a song on a record. And that's pretty much it. I am legitimately shocked about this, but that's okay. It's okay. It's all good. I will leave that simmer on the stove for now, ice water and everything, and kick it over to you for the next track off of Hit Me Hard and Soft, and that is Wildflower.
With Wildflower here, we get Billy, like, essentially, like, recalling, comforting a girl post breakup, only to later date that girl's ex boyfriend. So, yeah, that's a that's an interesting story there. And the title likely alludes to Wildflower Cases, a brand co-founded by Devin Lee Carlson. Carlson is the ex-girlfriend of Eilish's own ex, Jesse Rutherford, frontman of The Neighborhood. Remember The Neighborhood, man?
I do. I do remember The Neighborhood.
Yeah. So, though Eilish and Carlson like later became like friends in 2023 as a like a result of this whole mess here, but yeah, with Wildflower here, in terms of a sonic palette and the direction that we're taking with this song here, we're essentially just parking the bus right in the middle of Ryan James Kern's lane. Like, this song here is just right up my alley, dude. Like, you get the bare acoustic guitar and the vocals, and I'm like, oh my god, like, sign me up for this 10 times out of 10. So in terms of the way that Billy's vocals sound, this is probably one of the better performances off the record for me. Like, and that's because I enjoyed how the vocals are produced. Like, you get a lot of like roomy reverb, and it just sounds so good to the ears. And also, again, in terms of stuff that I specifically enjoy, and it seems to be a trademark of like me within reviewing music, that slight pause you get in the guitar right before the chorus is just absolutely chef's kiss. Like, it's just so good. And again, Billy's vocal performance within that chorus is just so good. And after that chorus, you get the drums and bass kicking in to add another instrumental layer within the track, and it pays off very well. It just feels like a slow burn of a track that doesn't really just go insane and pop off at the end. The lyrical highlight I had within Wildflower, it was found in the outro, and it's basically, do you see her in the back of your mind in my eyes? And yeah, it's just, that gets to the lyrical themes of what yeah, like, it gets to the lyrical themes of what's going on here within Wildflower, because Billy's trying to comfort her friend, but she's also interested in the person who hurt this friend, and it's just an interesting dynamic. I will admit full-heartedly, she's being a shitty person here. Like, and I think Billy knows that, because this song here is very emotional. It's not like, very braggadocious. So, yeah. I will say, though, I will critique the song in that I'm not sure how I feel about the little extra coda section at the end of the song. Could have just ended with, like, the very last line of, well, like the previous line right before that little coda section. And yeah, cut track territory for me, man. Like, I was very tempted to pop it into like a top 3 spot, but the little coda at the end kind of sunk the track's appeal. And not that I have to have like a moralist standpoint within music, but the fact that she's kind of being a shitty person here did knock the track down like a half of a peg, if not a full peg for me. But it's a good track.
Yeah, it is interesting because I'll bring him up again later, but it does feel like with the lyrics at the very least on this album, she's trying to recollect the same vibes that Tyler the Creator had on Igor, and sort of telling this tale about a relationship from the perspective of, ultimate bliss to somewhat panic confusion to I'm the wrong one to you're the wrong one to doesn't matter who's the wrong one because we're long gone. And it feels like this is sort of pivoting in the direction that Tyler took, where he went with tracks like New Magic Wand or A Boy's a Gun, where it's a matter of, we're doing so well, but now I'm not so sure if I could be the right person. And to be fair, at no point on Tyler's record did he really perceive himself as the enemy or the bad guy, just either the victim or the perpetrator of something new. And yeah, there is a role for people being terrible in music, but maybe not the case here. But for Wildflower, sonically speaking, to me, this felt like a sort of a crossbreed between the chiropractic nature of Phoebe Bridgers and the archaeology of one Mr. Bruno Mars. Like, those are the two artists I thought of sort of coming together to form whatever this song was, because like Skinny, you get that very somber, melancholic tone in Billy's voice. Unlike Skinny, you get more of a backbeat and more of a soulful harmonization, particularly on the choruses, which I very much dug quite a bit. And on the whole, I feel like just production-wise and presentation-wise, this feels more upbeat, well-rounded, and completed compared to Skinny. I like Skinny quite a bit. So for me, if I'm being completely honest, I'm right there with you. There were 3 tracks, as it turns out. 3 tracks where I was like, okay, this could be my third favorite track, this could be my third favorite track, or this could be my third favorite track. And full disclosure, I have waffled on that decision even during this conversation we're having right now. But as of the time being, Wildflower goes into cut track territory for me as well.
Mad respect. And I'm also kind of digging the professions that you're giving, like, different musical artists, like Bruno Mars, being an Indiana Jones here, not Indiana Jones, but like an archaeologist, and then like Phoebe Bridgers being a chiropractor. Like, just hats off to you, man. Like, that's very much enjoyable. And to your point, like, I kind of wrestled with the same kind of things within doing this review here, but I think I'm a little firmer into, like, walking into, like, okay, here's the reasons why this track here landed in the top spots. But yeah, it's one of those reviews, man. But before we, continue on with said review, we have to park the bus at the gas station. And while we're at the gas station waiting for our Sheets order to, get ready to be made and for us to enjoy some appetizers here, man, I got a question for you.
And what is that question, good sir?
If the dear listener out there is very much enjoying what we're like providing in this episode in our discussion of Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish, and they want to help show some support so we can keep pumping these episodes week in, week out for them to enjoy and, expand their musical knowledge and just hear our different takes on different musics, what are some ways that they can help show some support? And what are other ways that they can connect with us on different platforms? And ultimately, if they are feeling like the Son of Man and they can hear it coming in the air at night, and they want to get that Phil Collins review in the Hey Listen to This pipeline, what is a way that they can do said action, man?
Well, I'll start at the beginning. If you like what you're listening to here on Hey Listen to This, you can keep listening to this by finding us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. We upload our episodes every week to various platforms, including Pocket Cast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So if you're on any of those, you have an account there, or you're just a casual who has the app and just like, oh, what are these guys doing? That is where you can find us there. And if you're on that, you like what you hear, do what the algorithm tells you to do. Do what the app says. Follow the instructions. Don't read the terms and conditions. Life's too short for that. But, give us that like, give us that comment, subscribe to our feeds, and we very much appreciate a 5-star rating where it is applicable. If you like what you're hearing and you're listening to an episode and you're like, I like this, and I know someone out there is going to like this too, but I'm not sure who that is. So I'm going to cast a wide net across the internet to find out who might like this. Fear not, because we are on social media as well. We are on Facebook, we are on Threads, we are on Instagram, we are on Blue Sky. And if you're looking for us on any of those sites, you can either just type our name into the search bar, put in our full government podcast name, and find the blue logo with the black microphone. Or, if you want to take the shortcut, our username is ttheylisten. Again, that is ttheylisten if you want to find us on any social media site. And speaking of ttheylisten, if you want to reach out to us directly to request that Phil Collins album, but you do not know us directly, fear not again, because we have a email address that you can reach us at, and that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. Again, that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. If you want to give us some positive feedback, some negative feedback, or if you want to try to become the son of man or request a different album that isn't by Phil Collins, because we have done listener requests in the past and we would like to do them again, Phil Collins or otherwise. So again, that is ttheylisten@gmail.com if you want to reach out to us. ttheylisten if you want to find us on social media on the likes of Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram. And you can listen to our episodes every week on platforms such as YouTube, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's where we'll be. And to anyone and everyone who has done this throughout the first 120 plus reviews and other episodes of this show, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, me and Ryan are not part of any major podcast network. We're not sponsored by Sheets. We're not sponsored by Angry Orchard. We're not sponsored by the new and in theaters Scary Movie or any of the others that we mentioned already in this podcast. We're just two dudes who love to talk about music. And from one dude to another, Ryan, thank you as always for being a wonderful co-host. And now we're in our second Pride Month, man. I mean, technically it's our third since we started a couple years ago, but we didn't do it back then. We won't talk about that. We're just going to enjoy the good vibes right now and appreciate what it is we do. And I appreciate what you do, man. Thank you as always for being a good partner.
And the compliment goes right back to you, man. You make an excellent counterpoint to what I'm bringing to the table. And you've helped me grow as a music critic, listener, and appreciator. You've brought countless amount of records to my, consciousness, or at least threw them into my ears and made me aware of what they had to bring to the table. Like, the first clear example of that was when we reviewed Joni Mitchell's Blue, and how that album hit me like a ton of bricks. And there's countless amount of other examples that I can cite there, but that was the one that came top of brain. And it's been an absolute pleasure doing the same thing with you, sharing some of the records that have made an impact on me over the the course of me being a decent music fan, I would like to say. And also, dear listener, on behalf of me and Matthew here, thank you for listening to two white guys talk about music for 2+ hours. Totally original idea, man. But hopefully we are, giving you at least a chance to step away from how crazy the world is nowadays, and for you to hear our reflections about art, and you guys can form your own opinions about it. So yeah, without any further ado, we got our appetizers from Sheets, we got our Angry Orchard. but we're not going to drink it while we're driving the bus because that's frowned upon in most societies. We're gonna just put that in like the cubbyhole holder and like save it for whenever we fully park the bus when we end the review. We are ready to get this gravy train back on the road here, man. And you're up next here in terms of like introducing and talking about the song first. And the opening track off of side B of the review and the record here is called The Greatest. Matthew, the floor is yours.
Thank you, good sir. And I will spoil the jokes ahead of time since both me and Ryan have revealed our top picks for this album. The Greatest is not, in fact, the greatest. But how good is the greatest? Well, once again, we head back into a very somber, very melancholic territory, but also slightly more upbeat in a sense. Like, this feels like the most ironic track sonically on the whole album, because lyrically, I would say it's one of the sadder songs on the album because it feels very breathy, almost in a similar vein to What Was I Made For. But the key is very sunny, or at least very bright. It's not dour, it's not murked in production. It's a very light track up until a certain point. And once again, Billie Eilish is just working the song to the point of proper dynamics in and throughout. And the way that it builds to what it does is great. Her vocals very much, I would say, are clearer than they usually are throughout the album, where you can definitely hear what she's saying, and her vocals are cut so dry that you can very much hear what she's trying to say. And what she's trying to say is, all this time we spent together, wasn't it great? Wasn't I the greatest? You could have been the greatest. And basically just longing for that feeling of bliss and passion once again that has seemingly taken a turn for the worse. Very much in the same vein of Phoebe Bridgers, or I would even say closer to Juliet Baker on a track like this. Like, very, very vulnerable, very, very confrontational. And the part that sort of stood out to me and really stood out on this entire record came in the, I guess you would call it the bridge, or I'll just call it the drum break, where you get full instrumentation. It put me off at first, but the more and more I listen, I'm thinking, this is just really, really well executed. Because it's in 4/4, but it's not executed in 4/4. Like, the way you have to count off is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And to have that kind of inversion and subversion of your musical expectations on a song like this, like, there are times where I'm listening to the drums like, okay, that's where the beat is. No, wait, no, what's over there? But it all just sort of flows with this strong point where I was like, yeah, no, that's just a really good move. And again, the passion in her vocals, I think, also sets the song apart too, because she, again, has done her homework listening to the Boy Genius crew do their thing and realizes that she can sort of take that into her own mold. Not that she hadn't already done it with her second Oscar win, but in the case of the subject matter, making it more personalized to a deteriorating relationship, she has succeeded with flying colors. So, again, it was tough. It was very tough. And Catch Me on a Different Day, Skinny, or Wildflower could take the spot. But for now, the greatest will have to settle for the bronze. It is my third favorite song off the album.
The constant comparisons that you're making between Billy and the Boy Genius crew might have an effect on me in terms of my next album recommendations for this, but more on that to come. But yeah, with the greatest here, I agree with you about her vocals. Like, it's an absolute treat for me. I think I very much enjoy what's going on here for the sole fact of the emotion that Billy is wearing on her sleeve. Because within this song here, it's basically talking about a one-sided relationship where Billie feels like she's the one who's only putting in the effort to make this relationship work, because you get bars like, I'm trying my best to keep you satisfied, let you get your rest while I stay up all night, and you don't want to know how alone I've been. Let you come and go, whatever state I'm in. And, like, you get, like, in the chorus, like, man, am I the greatest? My congratulations, all my love and patience, all my admiration. Like, again, these, like, you highlighted the sarcastic kind of, like, feel about this song, and like you very much get that within the lyrics and like the song structure as a whole. And the songwriting here is pretty balanced, very nice. The just the way that her vocals and the plucked strings, like how they sound so well together, are a treat for me. And that chorus, dude, it has such a nice build to it. Like, you get the acoustic guitar doing the chords, and then you get like, this is specifically within the first chorus. You get the fake pop out at the first chorus, because you feel like you're about to get hit with something, and then it just becomes more self-defeating, like deflated. And that's where I'm starting to appreciate vocal inflections a little bit more as a song performance kind of tool, as to compared to like just inability to sing. And during that second chorus, though, you get much more of that fuller build with, like, just everything starting to swell up together. And dude, when everything pops, oh, it pops like a motherfucking bitch. Like, it just lands so well. And just how that leads into the bridge that you're describing, like, it's just so good. Like, I think I blacked out whenever that pop happened. So the lyrics here are great. Like, I love the self-defeating attitude. I didn't really have a lyrical highlight because everything was pretty much straightforward, but it's still very good lyric writing from Billie here. And like the strings that you get in the song's bridge that follow her vocal melody are the same like strings that we've heard interpolated in the opening track, Skinny, and then we're going to hear in the closing track, Blue. But regarding my overall thoughts about The Greatest, really, really solid performance. And it was very hard for me to figure out where this belonged within my favorite tracks off the record, because it is in my favorite. It's in my top 3 at number 3. So I'm right there with you, man.
It again, this one took a little bit for me to get there, but again, the sort of, pardon the pun, nakedness of Billie's emotions here on this track very much sold this song for me. Like, this is a track that very much falls in the category of deep personal heartbreak, and it just pops off better, like you said, than either Wildflower or Skinny did for me, like just by a hair. Now again, Catch Me on a Different Day might be different, but on this day, third spot goes to The Greatest. But with all that being said, I'm ready, if you are, Ryan, to go into the next track, which is L'amour de ma vie.
So with L'amour de ma vie, I'm more of a Spanish kind of girly, so I apologize for the misstep in French there. With this track here, we get one of the first of 3 tracks that are kind of a multi-part song. And with this track here, like the first part that you get, you get that lo-fi production at the start, and it works really well, like alongside Billie's vocals. And in terms of little moments within the song here that I did appreciate. Like, like right before like a part in the pre-chorus, you can hear Billy like almost like smirk. Like I absolutely love that, especially whenever you can hear that within a song and music in general. And speaking about song like moments that I specifically love, I'm sure you caught this part. Has that part where she goes bump bump bump, and like the instrumentation just mirrors it 100%. Like it works so well, and it makes for a very very pleasant experience. The way that the production gets elevated after that moment is just for a nice it's a nice touch. It definitely takes it away from that lo-fi production that kicked everything off and just gets everything into a very very well established groove. And the bridge into the second part of this song here brings things more back into a lo-fi feel, but it kind of has more of a techno dance kind of feel. And like like that's just the best way I could describe it. So yeah, overall the first part of the song was pretty good, very groovy and very soulful. And then the second part hits. And the second part of the song, it's called Over Now, and fans have speculated that this part of the track is about her ex Jesse Rutherford and his former girlfriend Devon Lee Carlson. And there's also similar theories surrounding the song Wildflower that we've discussed previously in this review here. And Eilish has clarified that the song's two halves are actually about two different people. So there's that. But yeah, just the way that the groove is established is just so infectious. And I just love how the vocals are produced. Like, it's very much embodying that dance, kind of electronic dance feel. And the outro to this part of the song gets more sinister in tone. So, yeah, it makes for a very pleasant experience from part one to part two. And honestly, the lyrics overall are pretty solid. And the entire chorus of the first part is a lyrical highlight. And the chorus reads, I wish you the best for the rest of your life. Felt sorry for you when I looked in your eyes, but I need to confess I told you a lie. I said you were the love of my life. And that's a very sarcastic backhanded take there. So yeah, overall though, with this track here, I'm impressed by the songwriting, the composition, and the performance. We are completing my top three, with this track taking the second spot on the rankings.
Huh. Very interesting. So maybe you're more of a French girly after all, instead of l'Espagnol. But my thoughts on L'amour de ma vie, I echo a lot of things you say. First of all, I think her vocals on here are just nothing short of fantastic. Because, again, you get that harmonization that recalls stuff from Phoebe and Julian. And the way that she does smirk lets you know that she's not taking herself completely seriously, or at the very least is taking herself seriously enough to show that she can be very vulnerable and have cracks in this presentation to say, hey, maybe I was the bad person after all, or maybe you were the bad person after all, but ain't it funny how we used to have it all and then all of a sudden now we don't. So yeah, the first part of this is just good pop folk in that regard. And the way it transitions between that part and the Over Now part is just colossally fantastic. It's better of a transition than between Skinny and Lunch, because it has that little repeated phrase that just sort of fits into the rhythm. And all of a sudden, it's oh, we're going from pop folk to brat, I assume. We're going brat with this second half of the track. And I don't know if Billie took inspiration from that. I don't know if that's possible, but if she did, kudos to her, because who here doesn't like Brett? Nobody. So, yeah, I will say that the way the vocals were produced on the second half did put me off a little bit at first, but at the same time, like, with repeated listens, it got better, and I just appreciated it for what it was. Just, again, a very early 2000s club banger pastiche that she was going for. Um, these two parts of the song don't really connect with one another outside of that transition, but that transition is very good. And it's a very interesting song throughout just because of that. Um, it's almost as scatterbrained as Billie, I think, wants it to be. So for me, L'amour de ma vie, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the great song bucket because I don't think it would be high enough to be considered cut track territory for me, but enough it's good that I can say it's pretty great.
Fair enough, man. And yeah, I think just for me, I very much was taken back by like the different moments that I kind of got sucked into, and the transition point was executed pretty effectively. But yeah, without any further ado, we've already went to lunch, and now later on in the experience of this album and this review, we got to pull up to experience the diner. So Matthew, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us about what's going on with this diner here?
We've already had lunch. Well, what about second lunch? The diner. This song to me very much comes full circle with how you ended last week's review by revealing that there was a connection of inspiration between Billie Eilish and Tyler the Creator. Because this song is, to me, incredibly Tyler coded. And for two songs in particular, both of them are unsurprisingly off Igor. The beat of this song is very akin to me of New Magic Wand. Definitely sort of a disjointed, almost circus-like from hell type of beat. Also kind of similar to Bad Guy now that I think about it out loud, but definitely has that very dark dance nature to it that I thought would be pretty good. And it just has that consistency throughout. And the other song that it reminds me of a lot is A Boy is a Gun. And that comes in the lyrics because the lyrics feel very much of a situation where Billie feels like, hey, this could still work out. I want this to work out. You need to help me make this work out. And it's very possessive. Like the line that got me on this track was, you could be my wife. Like, when you mix the connotations of the dedication to be a wife with the tentativeness of you could be, like, there is a fault line in Billie's philosophy saying, hey, I want this to be forever. Maybe. Like, it's a very rocky platform to stand on. And also, I think I'm maybe just thinking of A Boy a Gun because I'm thinking of the line that very well could have taken place in a diner. You invited me to breakfast. Why your ex here? Like, that almost seems like a very parallel vibe to this song. The beat's very good. Phineas, once again, does a really solid job of laying things down. And Billie, I think, does a very good job vocally, although it definitely tends to steer back towards the typical Billie Eilish vocal, which I think for a song like this does work very well. So ultimately with the diner, again, I do like the nods to Tyler both musically and lyrically, and I do think this is a good sort of rocky foundational point of conflict in the story. But ultimately, I'm just going to put it in the good song bucket because it didn't really super elevate itself for me, but I'm not going to put skip on it anytime either.
Yeah, yeah. I could definitely vibe with that, and yeah, with the diner here, you kind of already kind of touched upon the lyrical themes, but yeah, like she drew inspiration with this song here due to her real life experience with stalkers, and like like this isn't the first time she's ever addressed like the dark side of fame. She previously addressed stalkers in the song NDA in the album Happier Than Ever. So yeah, it's not the first time she's had to deal with this and talk about it, but it's a sad fact of reality and like fame as a whole. It's funny that you mentioned that lyrically, like this kind of reminds lyrically and like sonically reminds you about Tyler the Creator um and the songs that you reference there. It kind of reminded me lyrically of Intruder by Peter Gabriel. So yeah, in terms of just like overall like stalker kind of vibes, that's what I more went for. But you like it's just two sides of the same coin, honestly. Like you could pick your poison either way. But yeah, I am in agreement with you. The way that Billy's vocals are, the way that they come across in this song here, they work very well given the context. Like very much given that stalker kind of vibe. And I found the production to be really interesting. The bass drops that I found within the song were very impactful and very noteworthy. Kind of added the necessary flavor to the song that it needed. The chorus itself didn't really feel like a chorus to me. However, I will note, in terms of like little moments within the track here that I did appreciate, I did enjoy the spot where you get the slight pause at the end of the chorus, right before Billy completes the line. Again, so good, and it's a songwriting trope that Billy and Phineas have used throughout this whole record here. So, well, in several spots, not throughout their whole record, but it's still a very nice moment. The echoey background vocals that you get in the second verse were a nice touch. I will give the song a little bit of a critique though, and it's at the ending part of the song as a whole. Like the ending gets a bit dizzying, which I know that's what they were going for on an artistic standpoint. However, again, for the casual listener standpoint, or even somebody who's just listening to this in their car, or just like has their earbuds in, like you're not gonna know what's going on. Like without looking at the lyrics, you can get lost like of what's happening here. The ending part, though, I do want to highlight with the phone number being recited. Like the phone number itself ties into verse 3, where the stalker, commits it to memory to call from jail. And in reality, like if you were actually to call that number, like while this album cycle was happening, you would get a real promotional message, or if you call that number, it plays a cryptic voicemail from Billy, and adding it on a WhatsApp lets fans sign up for text alerts. So that's fun. So yeah, and the lyrical highlight I had within the diner was actually in that bridge section where the bars read, I memorized your number. Now I can call you when I please. I tried to end it all, but now I'm back up on my feet. I saw you in the car with someone else and couldn't sleep. If something happens to him, you can bet that it was me. Again, very much painting the sonic and frantic mindset of a stalker and of an obsessive fan. So, yeah. And, yeah, just overall with the diner here, it's a mixed song for me, like, because you get some good moments, you get some fun moments, but then you get like the ending part where it just you're getting lost for artistic sake, and I get it, but for me, I think I'm landing in album track territory, kind of like a mid song territory for me. Yeah, it has its moments, but there's some stuff that holds it back.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, yeah, I appreciate the song. It sounds all right to me, and maybe I'll have to catch that ending part to see if it twists another way for me. But yeah, I think the song's all right. But I'm not going to keep harping on something that's all right. We'll see if the next track falls into either category, because we are at the penultimate track on Hit Me Hard and Soft. And Ryan, the floor is yours with Bittersweet.
So with Bittersweet here, we get the next track in the album that is a multi-part kind of sequence here. And yeah, just the lyrics here, they explore the conflict between, like, Billy protecting herself and longing for healthy relationships. And also, like, there's moments where Billy's feeling disconnected from her emotions while idealizing romance in her dreams. So yeah, going part by part here. The first part of the track, the big synth chords were so Tyler coded. Like, that's the thing I picked up right away. I'm like, oh, someone's listening to Igor. I can tell. So, and then again, like, if you're gonna take inspiration from anything, that's not a bad thing to take an inspiration from. The songwriting in that first part is strong. You get hit with that big opening, and then everything gets stripped down and then gets built back up. Again, I very much enjoyed the songwriting composition there. The way that the production does, like, once it does get stripped down, it you get that sparse lo-fi beat, and then eventually things kind of just morph into more of a dense beat, and it's very good. Like, I very much enjoy the thick bass hits, and then how it morphs into, like, big synth chords. So, like, that's very much a treat for me. And Billy's very much giving a very strong performance, from, like, belted all the way, like, within certain parts, down to soft spoken vocals. Like, her vocal control is very good here. And again, she's a very good vocalist, and she definitely has range. My biggest critique within this song here, and my biggest gripe of it, is coming in the second part. Because this is a multi-part song, and within the second part, you get a bit of a whiplash into a bossa nova style. Like, and it's completely unearned, in my opinion. The transition's not smooth at all. Like, and, like, I will say, alone, the bossa nova style is executed pretty well. Like, the production is very much driving the beat and selling it pretty much to a T. However, like, this is a part of the song, outside even just the transition part alone, like, where things just get kind of sloppy in execution. Like, it's a combination of songwriting and, like, just the way that Billy's vocals come across, that, like, it gets lost in the sauce and just kind of meanders for, like, X amount of minutes before transitioning into the third part of the song. I will say, though, like, within this second part, you do get some nice moments of just chords within the section hitting well. The transition out of the second part of the song into the third part was executed pretty well. The song does slow down and does lead into the third part. And within that third part, the vocals are drowned out here, which is slightly annoying. However, the production makes up for it. Like, within here, we get the brat section coming back. Like, you get the thick synth chords that are just laid out very well, and you also get that instrumental, like, carrying everything out and that was pretty solid. Within the whole track, though, the lyrics are pretty good. And my lyrical highlight came in part 2 in the chorus, where Billy's singing, "I don't need to breathe when you look at me, all I see is green." And green is, like, used as a metaphorical stand-in for, like, life. So, like, yeah. But if I had to be honest with you, man, due to the sloppy execution going from part 1 to part 2, and just certain, like, for a good part of the second part of this song here, within Bittersweet, it being, like, kind of meandering and being, like, kind of lost and, like, just not going anywhere, this is indeed my least favorite song off the album.
I could tell whenever you were, because you are, as of late, very heavy on execution being sloppy, and I kind of understand where you're coming from there, because it did come out of nowhere between the two. That being said, my thoughts on Bittersweet, I wholeheartedly agree with you that that first part is incredibly coded to Tyler the Creator. Like, I very much got the synth vibes of Igor from there. But the second part, the bossa nova that you're talking about, I also kind of attribute to Tyler. Not so much from Igor, but from, in particular, the back half of his song from Call Me If You Get Lost, entitled Sweet slash I Thought You Wanted to Dance. Like, to me, that kind of reminded me a little bit of that section of the album. But that being said, I think the big problem with that, not only the transition was a little sloppy, but I think the problem is that we talked a lot about Billie Eilish's vocals being low key and having that signature sound. And the problem is when you mix those two together, the low key Billie Eilish vocals with the sort of almost elevator like bossa nova beat, what you get is a sonic palette that tends to. I mean, it might have been on purpose, and I'm willing to give Billie Eilish the benefit of the doubt that it probably was on purpose. But even if it was, it still creates for a push towards irony that seems so lacking of a joke or lacking of a, hey, this sounds like elevator music. And all of a sudden you push so far in that stick that, it actually does sound like elevator music. This is kind of boring on purpose, even though it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. I didn't think it was that bad, but at the same time, it also went in one ear and out the other, and I'm trying to, even try to recall anything from memory, and I can't do it. And yeah, overall, that's kind of how I feel about the song ultimately. Like, it sounds good. I'm not going to hit skip on this one either. Again, I dug the beats, and I appreciate the attempts at creating a quote-unquote suite of multiple parts, but ultimately, once you kind of get what they were doing and the clarity of the vocals isn't there like it was with The Greatest or even Birds of a Feather, I just kind of was like, all right, this is very much album track territory for me. Like, it's all right, but meh.
Yeah. And I agree. It's basically meh. It's a song that had ambition, but the execution was not there, man. If the execution was there and everything was like a little bit more polished, who knows? But yeah. In the meantime, it is time. It is time for us to almost finish off this review of Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. We're going to be talking about the track Blue. Not the Joni Mitchell Blue, but the Billie Eilish Blue. Matthew, the floor is yours.
You beat me to the joke. I was just going to say this is actually just the last track is just a full 30-minute cover of the Joni Mitchell album, but you beat me to it. I appreciate that mindset, good sir. But Blue does have multiple parts to close this album out. It starts with a very poppy opening section where you get Billie pretty much referencing every other song that there was on this album. And I love that. I love the unpacking of the entire album beforehand and just little verses here and there. And this would be a very interesting experiment to hand this to somebody, be like, okay, this is a Billie Eilish song. Hear this first. Then go back and listen to the rest of the album. So they could be like, okay. I see what she was doing there. But for those who've been listening all along, it's just sort of a nice sort of last curtain call of all the emotions beforehand. But it's not necessarily a positive one because, in a sense, Billie is realizing that, hey, this feeling of bliss, this feeling of wanting to be with someone, it's just kind of dissipated into a bad vibe. And that leads into the second part where it's much more of a slow ballad where it kind of harkens back to the bedroom pop and the bedroom ballads that Billie was doing around the time of the Barbie movie or Happier Than Ever. And it sounds very good. Her vocals are once again great. Like, I have no qualms about her vocal performance on this at all. Although I'm going to be completely honest, I'd rather hear more of the first part, which had a bit more of a beat and a bit more of a la 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 type of irony to it than the sort of melancholic ballad towards the end. But that's just a personal preference. Execution wise, I have no complaints about that. And the way it all ends with the strings going on for about a minute or so does create this sort of nice sonic, almost cinematic finish to the record, which was probably very intentional, just to be like, hey, this is the end of the story, and we're going to make it sound like the end of the story. Not a bad trick. I mean, The Cure did that on Disintegration with Untitled. So, yeah, this track is a really nice way to finish off the record, both from a thematical standpoint of finding love, finding romance, struggling with it, and then ultimately falling victim to a bad time. But also just sonically, the way that everything sort of comes back to basics, and much like we talked about with Pinkerton by Weezer, just stripped down to little more than the original artists and their basic elements for recording. So I very much appreciated that. So ultimately, just because I wanted a little bit more of the beat compared to the ballad, I'm going to relegate Blue to the great song bucket. Not quite cut track territory, but very much a strong way to finish this album off.
So you were talking about like the two parts to this track here, and this track here, like as a collection, Blue, it's essentially a mashup of two unreleased tracks. The first half, like, basically is a rework of a leaked demo that Billy and Phineas wrote as teenagers, and that song is called True Blue. And the second half adapts an unreleased Happier Than Ever cut that explores growing up in a distant family, and that song is called Born Blue. So, and with how the track ends off, like, it kind of fuels a popular fan theory, with Billy asking, but when can I hear the next one? And there's a fan theory going out there that there's a surprise companion album on the way, and that album is themed in red. So yeah, that's for the Eilish fans out there. There you go. You get that nod to that theory there. So yeah, you were talking about at the start of this track here that you get that curtain call kind of feel where you get references to like different moments and different lyrics like that you've heard throughout the whole record. This trope here is one of my favorite things that musicians and bands can do. Fall Out Boy did this in one of their songs, and the Wonder Years did this in one of their songs as well. They both kind of executed that in different aspects. The Fall Out Boy song was What a Catch Donnie, where during the end part of that song, they referenced several songs throughout their catalog. It was a nice look back on what the group has done over the years. Either way, the way that it comes across, it's always a fun time for me, and it's a nice nod. Like, it's not a very like impactful, like it didn't shake me to my core, but I did enjoy it. The melody in the first part of the song is so good. Like, it's very solid. The way that Billy's just playing with it, it's a fun time. The production though is a bit basic, but it gets the job done. Like, it's not basic to the point that I was like kind of bored by it, a la Birds of a Feather. But I very much enjoyed what was going on there. And then we get into the second part here where it goes into that, like you described, like a more of a soft spoken ballad. And like, you know, you get the gentle production touches alongside Billy singing bars about how her lover's past has affected her state now, and how she doesn't hold it against her, and everything works. Like, you get bars like, "You were born bluer than a butterfly, beautiful and so deprived of oxygen." That's just straight poetry right on paper, dude. I will say, admittedly, though, like, after, like, I would say halfway through in the second part, like, I'm a little disappointed by the choice not to let the song ride out, or build upon, like, the momentum that has been felt in the second part of the song. And because you get the song into, you get to switch into more of a hip hop kind of trap beat. You kind of described it already, and it kind of ruins the mood. Like, it kind of does sinks the track's appeal. And honestly, I had to wrestle with the fact that I almost put this as my second least favorite track as a result. But then I realized, like, there's more positives here than anything to really make me feel like this track was deserving of a bottom track contention. I will say, though, the song does end off with a nice string section, and that has Billy's vocals being in the background. Like, it's a very nice touch. Lyrics overall are pretty great. I already described the bluer than a butterfly lyric, but another section I do want to highlight is in part two, verse two, which is basically kind of highlighting the distant family relations and, like, the effect that um, improper, like, childhoods can, like, you know, really put a like a stunt on somebody's emotional growth. So you get the bars: "You were born reaching for your mother's hand, victim of your father's plans to rule the world." So yeah, like, again, I love the gender dynamics at play here and just how everything comes across. So yeah, I already kind of hinted at this. This was a cut track for a bottom track contention, but yeah, it's just another track here where I do appreciate the ambition, and I do, like, I do enjoy this song a little bit better than Bittersweet, because the minor gripes that I had about switching into that hip hop beat, like, it wasn't poorly executed. It was just like, I kind of wanted a different direction, but it is what it is, man. It's a it's a it's a mid song track territory for me.
That's fair. Yeah, I think I appreciate this track just a hair more than you do, but not by a whole lot. Like, again, to me, the one word I could probably describe this song best is pleasant. It's not extraordinary. It's not pushing boundaries. I mean, again, the use of lyrics from other songs is pretty crazy, and I do very much give high marks for that. But musically, it's pleasant. It doesn't try to push any boundaries. It's safe. It's sort of heading back into territory of comfort sonically, which it really didn't stray from it throughout the rest of the album. So retreating this isn't so much of a stretch as it was with Butterfly from Pinkerton, but ultimately the same kind of idea of, hey, we're tearing everything down and just stripping it down to pure emotions here, which I think they did a decent job with in the end.
And with that being said, man, the dear listener out there probably has noticed at this point in the review, starting out, we had 10 tracks up, 10 tracks have been smacked down, scorecards have been properly filled out. So there's only one thing left to say, man.
We did it, man.
We did indeed do it. We traveled with Billie Eilish, and we hit people hard and soft. So I'm gonna go first in terms of my overall thoughts and ratings here. So I'm walking away from this album kind of having a deeper appreciation for what Billie can bring to the table, and it ultimately makes me have a better relationship with this album. I might revisit it again in the future, but within this album, you get Billie's vocal control like throughout the whole record, her open lyricism, and you get the clever and dynamic production from Phineas. And yeah, like the high energy standouts like Lunch, L'amour de ma vie were a great time for me. And the more soft spoken, like stuff really right in my lane, like Wildflower and The Greatest. Like I very much enjoyed those tracks as well. The album was held back though by missteps in execution and structural bumps. Specifically the kind of boring production that I found on with Birds of a Feather, and the sloppy bossa nova execution within Bittersweet. And you also get moments where again that late track pivot to that hip hop beat in Blue, kind of ultimately ruined the mood on an otherwise great song, man. So, yeah, in terms of overall thoughts and ratings here, I'm gonna give "Hit Me Hard and Soft" by Billie Eilish a good 7 out of 10, man.
And my thoughts on Hit Me Hard and Soft, I remember liking somewhat the first Billie album we talked about, which was her debut, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? There were missteps on that album that I took to be just kind of weird and not very well suited, but ultimately walked away from it with a strong appreciation of Billie Eilish. And much like you, I walk away from this one with an even stronger appreciation, because here I think Billie's mission to have fun and get away from the isolated bedroom pop that she had been making during the pandemic paid off in spades. Because here you could hear her being more genuine, being more experimental, and I mean this in the highest possible complimentary state. Billie Eilish proves herself to be an absolute nerd on this record. Like, she wears all of her influences on her sleeve, and you can hear it from the Tyler the Creator backings on Bittersweet in the Diner, the Phoebe Bridgerisms on the likes of Wildflower and Skinny. Even I'll throw Sabrina Carpenter in there. I don't know if she listens to Sabrina Carpenter, but that's the best I could do with Lunch, because whoa. But overall, her and Phineas do a wonderful job of making a very listenable, very consistent, very strong, very heartfelt pop album that does a pretty decent job of telling a story. And again, the lone critique I'll have is that the back half of it, starting with the diner and going to Blue, does kind of run out of gas, but it reaches its destination well before that, and you kind of know where it's going, and you're just hoping to get to that gas station to fill up one more time because you want to hear this record again. And I do. I want to hear this record again. So with Hit Me Hard and Soft, I am going to give it an 8 out of 10.
So, with your 8 and my 7, that makes the math pretty easy, man. Or maybe I'm just getting better at math. So that averages out to be a solid 7.5 out of 10, because
Math
works for everybody. It does not hate. It does not discriminate. It's just numbers. So for me, my next album recommendation, I didn't want to say go listen to the debut album, because that might be a bit of a basic take, and I apologize, Matthew, if that is your next album recommendation. But as tempted as I was to be like, well, hey, I'm gonna go switch it over to one of the Boy Genius crew and pick an album in their discographies, I'm gonna stick with my original recommendation here, and that is an album by an artist named FKA Twigs, and the album is Eusexual. Fun, art pop, kind of, it leans more into the electronic stylings that Billie was going for with Hit Me Hard and Soft. But yeah, and you get fun moments like that. It's a pretty good listen, and it's an album that doesn't get its recognition where it is due. So yep, that's my official recommendation: Eusexual by FKA Twigs.
And my next album recommendation is not going to be the debut, as easy as that would be, because I think these two records are very different in style. But unlike you, I am going to head into the Boy Genius camp. And the album I'm going to pick, it's tough. I had two options of albums we've already talked about, either Turn Out the Lights by Julian Baker or Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. I'm going to go with Punisher just because I feel like there's a lot of Phoebe on this album, and the two just mesh in ways that I feel would make for a really nice sit in a dark room and vibe out playlist, have a good cry sesh about it. So yeah, Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers is my next album recommendation based off of Hit Me Hard and Soft.
So, dear listener out there, to summarize, our average rating for Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish was a 7.5 out of 10. Matthew recommends Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers if you've enjoyed Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie and you're looking for a next album, where to go next based off of vibes. And I am going with Eusexual by FKA Twigs if you want to go for a different kind of vibe. So yeah, it's very much a best of both worlds in terms of a next album recommendation. So yeah, man, we did it, man. We conquered another Billie Eilish review. How we feeling?
Feeling pretty good despite my hang-ups about you being rather mid on Birds of a Feather. That one's gonna be a legendary one. I'm gonna have to sit on that one for a while. But all jokes aside, I'm glad we did this one. I was very happy that we dug into the poppier side of Billie Eilish.
Me too, man. At the very least, takes aside and spicy takes aside, I'm just happy that I was able to, bring this album up for contention. I'm glad that we had a pretty good review about it, and it was a good time overall. And I can at least scratch that itch of oh hey, I finally listened to this album again. I have listened to it multiple times, so I don't have to think about it again at least for the next 7 months here. But that being said, Matthew, there's one thing we still have left to do before we officially park this review into bed. And that thing is, where are we going next week on Hey Listen to This? What do you got cooked up?
Well, we are going to be continuing with our Pride Month series of reviews. And I'm going to go a little closer to the present day, but not much closer. I am going to take us to the 1990s. And there are two albums that are going to go in wildly different directions from each other. And whether they go in wildly different directions of this review, we'll have to decide for ourselves. But Ryan, the way I'm going to have you choose between these next two albums is based off of famous duet partners that these artists have worked with. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay. Your options are either Tony Bennett or Christina Aguilera.
Oh. Let's do Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett? Okay. I am very pleased with that result. So for next week's review, we're going to be heading to the year of 1992, and we're going to talk about the album entitled Ingenue by the artist K.D. Lang.
You know what? In terms of prepping for the Pride game that we played for with our significant others, my wife made it. I did listen to K.D. Lang for the first time. It was probably that album specifically. So I'm ready, man. I'm ready to dive into an album that I casually listen to at work ones. So, yeah. Dear listener out there, if you've never listened to Ingenue by Katie Lang, released in 1992, make sure you listen to that album before next week's review. That way you can have opinions about the opinions that me and Matt are going to be bringing to the table, because you're going to be well informed about what that album's going to be bringing to the table as a whole. But yeah, man, I had such fun doing this review with you, man. We're just cranking reviews week in, week out. We might have our disagreements, but in terms of podcast hosts, like birds of a feather, we should stick together.
I agree. We should stick together. Let's do lunch sometime.